Hello, this is Dale Matthews. I'm joined by Mike Jones, and welcome to our little local show about politics. Hello, Mike.
Yes, and this woman behind you she is shocked. There must be big news going to drop here this evening.
Yeah, and this lady's shocked as well. So you're right. We've got what?
Yes.
We've got voices in her head and voices in her head. You're going to see what I'm talking about in a moment. It was a classic moment.
That's what the part. She's, I've got voices in my head.
Get them out. Okay, here's a drill. Right. So, Cheryl Walker. It was a classic Cheryl Walker moment today at the weekly business session. We're going to show it to you. One of the things that's been happening with us is, you probably know, we've shared this with you in the past, that the least popular internet subject, well, you know what the two most popular internet subjects are. They are, Mike? Not Mike, but Mike will tell you.
Yeah, kittens, puppies, porn, babies, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
The order I'm not aware of there, but you know.
And if you can combine them somehow, oh brother. Okay, so the least popular subject all over the world is local politics.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we knew that. We knew the job was dangerous when we took it.
Right.
But we're doing it anyway. And there's really only one place, it's not saying anything really good about us, but there's really only one place that you can go to see a nightly show. Well, local. It's the only place you can go, but well, except maybe for that. They're not local. They're in Jackson County. We're the only game in town. And you could rely, using the word rely and Daily Courier, it just doesn't, I just can't do it, Mike. But some people could look to the Daily Courier. No, I don't even want to say that. What could some people do, Mike?
It just seems that there's more and more evidence on a weekly, if not daily basis, that they don't quite get the story right. You can be in there in the room and go, okay, well, I pretty much understand how that went that day. And then you read it in the paper and you go, what? What meeting were they at?
Chuck Benson from KJO's not even going to the meetings. I don't see him. Maybe he's on vacation, permanent vacation. Or I don't know what happened to that guy.
I guess covering local news outside of car accidents and crime reporting and stuff like that.
And emergency striping.
Time for it.
Yeah, emergency striping. Don't forget that.
Well, they don't cover that though. They don't cover that. That's the county does that, but they don't cover that sort of thing. No, it's really is kind of a goofy thing, and you wonder what's more important than what is happening politically that steers the future of the entire county than what goes on in politics. I don't understand how that is not important to them. But I think that the Courier and maybe to some degree KJO have sort of fallen back on just being stenographers. They go, okay, what would you like us to say about what's happening in government? And we'll just do that. Why they show up at the meetings. I mean, what's the point? They could just call on the phone and say, what do you want me to say happened today?
They used to actually do that. At least the Courier reporter used to do that. Well, as soon as the next levy is headed toward the ballot, we'll see them again.
Yeah.
They'll be all over that.
I just wonder how low the subscriptions have to go before they decide to start covering things accurately. And listen, you can say whatever you want about, well, Dale thinks this way or Mike thinks this way or the Courier thinks this way. This is not just stuff that has to do with opinion. These are factual occurrences that they miss.
Yeah.
Or don't even report at all.
$100,000 cost overrun for the Dimick Tower. That never ended up in the Courier.
Yeah. So this is a crisis. It's an emergency situation in local news.
No, it's the Shangri-La situation for the commissioners. Yeah. The Courier's not covering what they're doing.
Yeah. Well,
there you go. Well, there is a place you can go.
Well, though, ultimately, you have to pay the price for this.
Yeah, but see, the people who subscribe to our channel for free and the people who watch our channel for free and watch the show for free, they're getting twice the value of what they're paying for.
Yes, it's worth twice. It's what's that song? Oh, that's nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Yes.
Well, sometimes we're like that. I try not to be. Sorry, Mike. So, one of the things that you need to know, and you probably know if you've been watching the show, is a major source of disinformation is right here. Misinformation to me is when, well, you'll see from a little clip that we're going to play, that's when somebody gets the story wrong. When someone's deliberately planting stories or planting ideas that are deliberately wrong, that's disinformation. And we've seen some indications of that recently from Cheryl Walker in particular. I guess it must just be that as she went through life, she was finding that instead of doing the homework, we saw some of this in the levy debates, instead of doing the homework or coming up with the numbers, you just make it up. And at the moment, it sounds real good unless somebody goes and says, no, wait a minute, I just told you there was porn at the library, and I just proved to you that there was porn easily available to children at the library. What's your answer to that? Well, it's not happening. I just told you that it did. Well, then you're a pervert. What?
Yes.
This is the answer?
Right. No, that's how it goes.
That is how it went.
Yeah, exactly. No, the interesting thing though, I think with her is that she doesn't even see this as being a lie. When she told them, we've already, vetted this thing. In her mind, it already has been vetted because she wants it. And so she knows that she has some influence over Keith and probably to some degree over Simon. So she thinks, hey, I'm going to get this done. And so she can tell them, that, but today she's denying. She was denying that she said anything like that. Oh, I didn't.
That's a lot like Keith Heck. Remember,
I didn't say we passed it. I said we funded it. Well, what's the difference?
Remember when Keith Heck was insisting that what he said, first thing he insisted is that what we caught on tape, and we only put up the video. It's just the video. It wasn't any commentary. First, he insisted that it never happened. Simon Hare tried that, and that didn't work for him. And then he insisted, well, yeah, it happened, but partly because Cheryl confirmed that it happened. She wasn't thinking when she said that. But something happened, but you inserted words in my mouth. You doctored the videotape. No, we didn't. You don't need our help to look dumb. Okay. And so it would have been the first rule they need to learn is if you don't have something smart to say, shut up. Ooh, I should learn that lesson too. Don't you think, Mike? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Many people think that. Okay, but I think it's very interesting, the viewership that we've gotten. Now, this morning at about 5:15 in the morning, what am I doing up? Well, I posted this video that we showed you last night on our show of an auto accident, and it involved one of the surveillance cameras in Grants Pass. Now, what the next day, for this show or most of our postings, except maybe for Oath Keepers, what's the typical number we'll see, Mike, about overnights, the overnight numbers, as they say in politics? What are the typical overnight numbers for us?
Typical, I'd say anywhere between 25 and 50, depends on, what the topic was that night and how popular, and we weren't running up against like on Saturday night they had the back to the 50s thing. Nobody's sitting at home watching Dale and Mike, I don't think, or not very many, but every once in a while there's a topic or a guest or something like that people want to hear. We get fairly good numbers, but this was different.
This was crazy. These are local numbers now. We're not, see, with the Oath Keepers, that went up pretty quickly, but that was viewed by people all over the country.
That's right.
I wish she'd stop holding her ears like this because it's freaking me out here. Okay, and I'd wish she'd stop existing. That's freaking me out too. But okay, so If it's Oath Keepers, well, it's going to jump up and we're going to get 1,000 views in a couple of days or whatever. This is different. This is all local viewers. And I've discovered, thanks to Mike, Facebook. Now, I don't really like Facebook. Okay, now Mike's one of the moderators of a Facebook site, but I don't like what people do to each other. Well, if that's the case, then my answer to you is you stink. This is not a very smart answer.
Yes, it is.
Really? That's the best you could do?
It's unfortunate. I try to avoid these sorts of altercations. It does happen from time to time, but you always feel dirty afterwards and vow to never again or something. And it's just, however, if you want to propagate news.
Ooh, I don't know. That doesn't sound very good.
It is the place to do it. It really is,
yes.
Because it goes very fast, and they're then spreading that to people who don't even have Facebook.
It's much faster. It's 10 months faster than Cajo or the Courier. We do a nightly show, and it's faster than us. If you want to know what's happening right now, it may be completely false, but if you want to have a clue about what's happening,
that's right. If you want a rumor about what's happening, go to say Josephine County Scanner Chat or Neighborhood Chat or some of the IV pages or something.
Or the one big serious one, which is Josephine County Politics. You go to Josephine County Politics, and you will see what's happening. They're not going to have a story on Josephine County Politics about In-N-Out Burger coming to Grants Pass. That was a false story. False. And you didn't see it on Josephine County Politics, although you saw it on some of the other sites.
I even fell for that one, and I should have known better. I looked at it, I went, hey, but then I thought, because I've heard rumors about other locations, and I thought, that's not really a great location. I don't know why they would choose that. But somebody had a picture of coming soon, Carl's Jr. Of course, they had stolen that from the one in Medford and brought it here and stuck it on the building.
They didn't steal the banner. I think they stole a picture of it, didn't they? And then they put it. I don't know for sure.
Oh, I don't know. That's true. I don't know either.
I think they photoshopped it. But the point is, but the real point is, before we start telling everybody this is completely false, it's false right now. However, this would not be the first time the In-N-Out Burger has denied that they were coming. My understanding is they denied they were going to Medford.
Yeah, no, that's true.
There they were.
Right, and they do own property in Grants Pass. It's because when they bought, this is the rumor, that when they bought the property, the Shell property there in Medford, they purchased a similar property from the same owner in Grants Pass.
Would that be Lonnie's Shell? Lonnie's Shell here?
I believe so.
Wow.
So whether or not that ends up being a In-N-Out or whether they're just making a a real estate parlay or something, who knows? But
so what happened to this? But Mike knows what happened to our video. We put up this thing with a real nice picture, that video that Mike had taken, and you saw the video last night of one of the surveillance cameras. I put it up at 5:15 this morning, and what has happened to that video, Mike?
I think it's up over 550 now. I know.
Oh yeah, it's about 6. Hold on a second, and I will tell you. Why don't you talk for a moment, Mike? So
I'll tell you. Here's an illustration.
Stop looking at me.
Yes, stop talking. Okay, here's an illustration of how much faster Facebook, not reliability wise, but faster Facebook is. That story about the fake, the Carl's Jr. banner that was on the, or not Carl's Jr., but the In-N-Out banner that was on the Carl's Jr. building there. That story came out a couple of days ago in the morning. And then the next day, KDRV had a story on it on their website. Then the next day, which was, this morning, I saw somebody had put up a headline from the Courier. The Courier actually put this scam thing on the front page. Says 2 days it takes the Courier to catch up with the rumor mill that's happening on Facebook right now.
Well, wait a minute. What does this say about what's happening locally if the front page article is dog licks ice cream cone or burger joint not coming to Grants Pass? Really, the front page?
Hey, you know what? That they had we do know that in the last couple of days they did have opportunities to put real stories on there about real things that are happening in Grants Pass. I think tainting the jury pool, which is essentially what happened when Ms. Walker leaked her story about them approving the
false story,
right? The Econ Northwest contract, and so the counselors were sitting there receiving this information about it with the belief that the county had already vetted and said okay.
The county is their partner. It's their partner.
Right. It's their partner, and there is some credibility to, when the commissioner's office says, yes, we have looked at this and we like this, that carries some cachet with it. And so to leak that falsely to them, and then it was a contentious vote. And I mean, it was 3-3, and the tie was broken by the mayor, but there was also a fourth guy who abstained there, who probably would have been a no vote, which would have killed the thing. And maybe the fact that they, didn't hear this fake story about this being okayed by the commissioner's office would have been enough to kill it.
There's not going to be anything in the Courier about that. Do you think the Courier is going to run a retraction saying we screwed up again?
Well,
yes. Front page.
Well, and there you go. This speaks to their credibility. They have been at all the same meetings. They would have known that this was not a factual thing.
Or you could ask for a second source. How about two sources? I went to journalism school. These guys are paid professionals, so to speak, and they don't get two sources for a front page article?
Yeah, but see, Jim Moore was obviously there in the city council chambers, and he just wrote down what the guy said. But wasn't he at previous meetings, and would he... couldn't he just have reflected on meetings that he had been in to go, this hasn't come up?
That's kind of strange. Yeah, I don't recall ever hearing that. Well, does he hear any of these things? I don't know.
Yeah, listen, this speaks directly to their credibility, and Jim Moore really needs to answer for this sort of thing. He's not going to, but he really does need to answer for this, because, listen, if you are going to be, if you want credibility in your political reporting, then you have to be right at least some of the time. And this thing, there's no excuse for that. No excuse for that at all. What he should have been the one to say, well, they said that this was vetted by the county, but I know for a fact that it wasn't because I was there and it hadn't come up.
Or how about I cannot get confirmation about that? Anything at all.
Right.
Right.
Yes. But the thing is he's on board. He's one of the guys who's in their pocket. Anything you want to do, I'm on board with it. The problem is you understand he is coming into every one of these stories with that bias in his pocket. So,
and that's what this next thing is about. Okay. This next thing is about does this firm, EcoNorthwest, are they coming in with a bias against the timber industry? Now, here's something I find very interesting. Simon Hare is going to vote for this deal. Now, he did a lot of talking at the last couple of meetings about, well, there's many things that we need to think about in promoting the timber industry in our county, blah, 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 to his supporters. Because as Mike pointed out, if he doesn't do that, what would happen if he fully embraced some company that was advising and helping the Sierra Club without saying such things, Mike?
Yeah, I think that would be a big negative for him. And I think this angle has not been properly vetted. If there is a company that is in any way advocating for what happened to this county in terms of environmentalists coming in here and shutting down the timber industry, and then you're gonna let them write your economic development plan, really? That needs to be vetted. That needs to be looked into. And listen, if you watch the show, you already know what I think of these stupid economic development plans. These people are writing an economic development blueprint for us to follow, as if we need to do that. I think you just unleash people's desire to do things, and you can develop an economy. You don't need to have somebody come in and tell you. But if these guys are a bunch of, if you pardon my expression, eco-Nazis, are they going to come in here and give us some, politically correct looking economic development plan that of course they don't care whether it works or not?
Well, that is
so I don't know.
That is the question. It is the question that Simon had. And he said a lot of stuff about, well, I'm really with you, all you timber guys. I mean, because Link and Jennifer Filippi are a couple of his biggest sponsors and biggest backers, and of course they're involved in the timber industry. And he's going to say all the right things, but this guy's going to change. You watch him. This is a political analysis show. What do you think we're going to talk about? Cameras and dogs licking ice cream cones? Well, we do one. Anyway, so there is just a tiny little contretemps at the moment. Ooh, it's so French. About what is their name? What is their name? Yeah, you see, all the way up until today, everybody's been saying EcoNorthwest, ECO Northwest. Mm-hmm. Well, Cheryl pointed out today, well, it's not EcoNorthwest. First time I ever heard this. It's EcoNorthwest. No, wait a minute. Yeah. That would take two N's, wouldn't it?
Yeah, okay. It would. It certainly would.
So here's what I found out. I called the Oregon headquarters for the Sierra Club. Mm-hmm. And I just asked the staff guy that talked to me if they could tell me anything about this company. What's that company called? It's in Northwest something or other. And he said EcoNorthwest. You see, the Sierra Club calls it EcoNorthwest.
Yes. Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Right. Yeah. Cheryl Walker insists now, for the first time, it's EcoNorthwest.
Yes, of course.
Okay, I don't have anything against the fact, and I don't know if they can do a good job, and Mike's probably right about economic development plans. It doesn't bother me that they've worked for the Sierra Club. That's my personal anti-bias. I don't care if they've worked for the Sierra Club or not, and God bless them. I hope they did a real nice job for them. But if you're going to change your name or how it's pronounced, depending on your client, so for the Sierra Club, it's EcoNorthwest. For Grants Pass and Josephine County, it's EcoNorthwest.
I'm sure he was mistaken.
And one more, if it's Detroit, and if it's E equals CO2 Northwest, okay, which is energy equals carbon dioxide Northwest, just because you're working for Detroit, fine. Go right ahead and do so, but don't try to bamboozle us, please.
How would Detroit think that was...
Energy equals carbon dioxide, aren't they all?
Yes, because sure, because carbon dioxide, global warming. We like global warming. Hey, that's good.
E equals CO2 Northwest.
Yes. You know what?
Hey, don't step all over my funny line. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
I want to know their track record.
I think that, see, what should have been done is these fellows at this city council meeting, the ones that had questions, and half of them had questions, and one of them abstained because of his questions. Now, look, it just takes a little bit of backbone. What you do is, when you have a question, you say, Mr. Mayor, hold on a second. Ooh, he's saying, hold on a second. That's really rude. I have some questions. Don't you think that we all deserve the chance to gather some answers before we take a vote on this?
Right.
Where are these guys? Cheryl Walker was part of that long bony hand that reached out into their meeting and manipulated their vote, because, as we told you last night, the city manager and the assistant city manager, David Reeves, they confirmed that Cheryl Walker was their source of this false information.
Did you want me to show his picture again?
No, that's okay. Yeah. Okay, all right. No, I know it looks a lot like bacon on a maple bar. Okay, I got it.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look anything like that.
Well, it's evil. I know that. Okay, so she was the source of this. Now let's just review what we saw last night, because this is delicious, and so is that maple and whatever.
Yes, it is.
Rutabaga thing.
Let me tell you, bacon maple bar at Donut Land. If you haven't been there and have one of those, you have got to do it, because it absolutely melts in your mouth. It's really good, and I am not being paid to say that.
Wow. Okay, you'd have to pay me to say it. So anyway,
hey.
All right, all right. So each his own.
Is what it is.
I love each of those things. I just don't like the combination. It's
Bacon, maple, and bars, but not together.
like bars. Now you're going to have Simon joining you.
Yes.
Bars with other people's cell phones. Okay,
Yes.
so
And we'll be having shots of maple syrup and eating bacon. Now that's good. Would you like that?
no, yeah.
Really?
Maybe shots with bacon. I'm not a drinker, but shots with bacon, I could until I fall asleep.
Shots, like penicillin or whiskey. Okay. Gotcha.
Well, penicillin, of course. Yeah, right. At some bars, you need to take penicillin.
Yes.
No, that's something else. Okay.
Yes, that's a preemptive thing.
No. And you would say no over here. So, all right.
Yes.
So, this is what we do. Just relax. Okay. So, they needed to say something. Now, very interesting watching DeYoung. Okay, so he's going along, and I have lots of questions. And suddenly he was like, I have no questions at all. Well, what happened to this guy? Okay, so who was it that said something? Do you recall who it was that said something that suddenly seemed to change his entire viewpoint on life?
Oh, yeah. That was Jim Goodwin.
Jim Goodwin. Jim Goodwin said, well, we shouldn't micromanage the staff. We shouldn't question the staff. Now, here's a couple little interesting points about this, which points out what this is really about. I'm pointing out what this is about. This will help Simon Hare connect the dots. Okay? Yeah. Here's the deal. And we haven't even got to this video yet. This is great. I'm still loving this. Okay, so Jim Goodwin, what does Jim Goodwin do for his regular everyday job, Mike? Do you remember?
Well, I thought, isn't he the juvenile justice guy?
He's on the staff. Don't question the staff. The staff will never send you wrong, okay? Yeah. He's on the staff for the county.
Right.
And guess who his county liaison officer is?
I don't know.
Can you connect those dots?
Is it a woman screaming because she's been left all alone? Oh, no. Oh, that's Cheryl Walker.
It's this one that's looking haughty, and I don't mean that kind of haughty. I mean the other kind of haughty. Okay. Yes. So the point is,
two kinds of haughty.
Yeah, one's a haughty that's woohoo, and the other's a haughty like ooh. Okay, that has this expression. Okay, so just the thought of it, stop, get out of my head. Okay, so is it a coincidence that it turns out that the staff guy says don't question staff people? Really? And this is what can convince Counselor DeYoung to completely change his point of view because we shouldn't question the staff? What's wrong with this guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
So all it would have taken, look, at the previous meeting 2 weeks before, this is a lot of inside baseball here for you guys, okay? Aren't you lucky? At 2 weeks before that, the city council had a meeting where they actually made a decision based on a proposal, a motion by, do you remember who made that proposal? Anybody out there? Just yell it out when you know the answers, everybody. We'll hear you.
Roy Lindsey?
Yes. Very good. Yes. Okay. Everybody got that.
I was paying attention during that video.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so Roy Lindsey makes this decision and makes this motion. And then the mayor says, let's go into a vote. Now, wait a minute. Jim Goodwin backed up Jim Goodwin, the guy that's on the county staff. He was the second. And then they went straight into a vote. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. And Mike and I got that. Hey, where's the discussion? So Roy Lindsey said, I'm sorry, I won't do that again. Guess what he did on the vote that we showed you last night? He was first. Yeah. Somebody should have been awake. Look, you guys, snap out of it. Be awake. They're almost less awake than our only female counselor who doesn't even go to the meetings. She's my rep. She doesn't go to the meetings. Would you please retire if you're not going to go to the dang meetings? I don't know if it's because she's bored or she's sick or she's busy or she has to wash her hair. Whatever the deal is, would you please retire if you're not going to represent anybody? You're not even showing up. These guys were no better. They were asleep. All it would take is one of them with a little bit of backbone. A few cojones among them would be nice. Just two is all that we need. And they would say, I make a motion that we table this until we do more research.
Well, and somebody did, but then they rolled over the top of him like he never said it.
This is not right, and especially since it was based on false information given by this lady. Okay, so we're going to back up just a little bit. We're going to introduce you to tonight's meeting. No, we're not. We're going to introduce you. We're having tonight's meeting. Stop it. To this morning's meeting, where the first thing that the county commissioners did, and can you roll that in just a little bit? I'm going to stick on my picture while you roll that in so we can talk about who's in the audience. So I gave just a little bit more on the top of the video, so but they shouldn't be talking. Okay, so now we're going to go to the still that's over here, and I'm going to tell you, Mike's going to tell you, who's in this shot. Who is that guy at the microphone? Oh, no, it's supposed to be a still.
Oh,
rolling on back. So, yes.
You wanted me to, like, okay.
Yes.
Isn't this the IT guy, Mr.
The
McCafferty?
IT guy, John McCafferty. And then see who's in the distance with a kind of a goofy looking hat?
Yes, that's Rika Brown.
Yes. And you see the guy that's not so bad, except he's a bit of an apologist, a bit, for the county government. And he's sitting next to this loon. That's his wife. Okay. Right. Now, this guy that's sitting closest to us, sorry, the picture's almost cutting him off. That's Larry Ford. And the lady sitting next to him, the reason I said she's a bit of a loon is you would think if I said the loon that comes to a number of meetings, you would say, oh, that's got to be Rika Brown. No. That's Jan Ford. Because Jan Ford is the only person in the county, there might be like Dave Strahan might say this, that we don't have a website. We don't have a website. What are you guys watching? You don't have a website, Dale Matthews. Really?
Yeah.
This is not a website. This is nothing. It doesn't exist. This is her point of view. She is so vehement about this that anytime anything's happened, she's, well, Dale Matthews is always not telling the truth. Kind of like the HR director said, you're always lying. She's that person. She's convinced. Just look at her. I mean, if you can see her, I'm sorry, I wish I could make this a brighter picture, but it's just, none of the personalities are bright except for a guy coming up that's going to make a speech. Oh, please. She insists that we don't have a website. Isn't that sweet? Okay, so that lets you know just about the brain trust. So earlier in this meeting, Larry Ford gets up and he says, if only the county would let people know about the wonderful things happening in this county, why you got people on this side of the aisle, people out here in the audience who are always questioning you, and we need to hear much more about the wonderfulness of county government. You gotta be kidding me. So this is most of the meeting, except for the people in the audience and Larry Ford. Most of the meeting was extolling the virtues of the Shangri-La situation, which is county government. And now this guy is going to explain to you, and they're going to talk about this guy, and then we're going to remind you at the end who this guy is and why this is so hilarious. Go ahead, Mike.
It's all part of this trying to move forward, build redundancy, build resiliency. We think VoIP will add to that.
Just kind of goes to show you that, there's the proverbial, I think, iceberg of you come here on a Wednesday and you see this little bit, a contract or what have you, and there's all these other things that are going on in the county that people just kind of take for granted. I still do. I didn't know that those things were going on. They just kind of happen. I'm not liaison to your department, but I think it's a testament to the staffing and the goals of trying to make this county as great as possible. And I think you and your staff are to be commended, especially for this. This seems incredibly thorough. I think our confidence level, certainly mine, is a lot higher coming out of a really challenging situation with the software system that we were trying to put into the assessor's office. Not that we didn't do our diligence, because I feel like we came out of that really well, but this one, I really appreciate all the efforts that you've gone into.
Can he just stop rationalizing that at some point?
I know that one of our board goals in the county has been to embrace technology, to make it, to facilitate the use of technology in our departments, because we know that over time we don't have additional staff or additional funding to do the manual type of things that we've been doing, or to repair those things that were traditionally used. And I appreciate you taking the initiative that you have taken in all of these departments, not just this project, but in all the departments to help facilitate that. I think that
He
the
called
feedback
somebody
I'm
and
getting
got
is
an
that
estimate
the
for
staff
crying
out in
out
the field
loud.
appreciate it as well, because it's very helpful to be able to have this kind of assistance when they're trying to deliver.
Oh, but
services.
Keith really puts the
Thank you.
whipped cream on top. Here it comes.
Yeah, and jumping on Commissioner Hare's comments, we as a county are very appreciative of the quiet leadership that often goes on in many different departments in the county, and certainly in yours, John. It's been is a delight. It's a peaceful experience, and in
Oh
a
my God.
department that can be a little hectic at times, but you and the crew that is over there is certainly you're demonstrating the tremendous value to the citizens of Josephine
Yes.
County, even to this.
And if you
this
could
kind of
only
work, and
figure out how to
appreciate it.
broadcast the weekly
Pass the word
business
along.
session.
Appreciate that.
I wasn't feeling pressure before, but now.
Thanks, John.
Well, we could heap it on some more to make it.
Oh Lord.
No, I mean it. I think you've done an excellent job in meeting our objective.
Yeah, so that is the punchline to this whole thing. Isn't it ironic that this guy was at a meeting in the Basker, and they're praising him for all the wonderful stuff that he's been doing, and what great leadership he's been showing, quiet leadership that's really just the best example in the world when you think about it. And he's in a room where it's just as likely that we couldn't see any of it or hear any of it than we could, because what's happened the last few meetings.
And listen, and if you heard the audio, that audio was crap. We had to filter it to begin with because they had the level way down too low. They didn't realize until about 3/4 of the way through this meeting when they jacked the audio back up. We had to take this audio, which was down in the dirt with a bunch of floor noise, that kind of thing, and we had to filter that out as best we could, and we didn't get it all out. And as a result of that, you get a little weird sounds to it. It's crappy audio. And they're praising this guy, and he is, his image is going out on a product that they're putting out, which is inferior.
When we did it, it never was like that, and it's the same equipment, except they just bought some newer equipment because they didn't like that equipment, and now they've put that in, as far as I know, and they're still not doing anything right. They haven't
put it in. The cameras are still standard def cameras. At some point, they'll take that. They probably don't know how to install it.
It's probably true, but they did spend the money.
Do it.
Yeah, and they seem to have misplaced $11,000 worth of public access equipment. That's why we have to put this out of our own pocket. And so the sheriff did go and ask to speak with Cheryl Walker about the stolen or missing $11,000 worth of public access equipment that we're paying for now.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And what's the answer on that?
We don't know.
Oh, we don't know.
You don't know. He just asked, and that's going to be a cold day in hell when she answers.
Yes. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yes.
So, isn't that lovely that they're praised? This is so ironic. This is the guy they're praising for doing a great job, and your technology leadership is second to none. What?
He called a few vendors and got some estimates on the phone system. It's what he did. This guy didn't do anything. He didn't do anything.
Well, here's the point. I mean, we're pretty critical, okay, of a lot of things. We do a nightly show, and we're able to make this work even on the internet and Google. I mean, yeah, sometimes that doesn't work out so well, but we always do it. We always deliver. You see us all these times in a row. Doing it every night is not a huge imposition. We know a little bit about the business, and these guys are screwing it up on a weekly basis. And then here's the part that bothers me the most. That they would be glad-handing each other. And Simon's even talking about what a superior job they did with this $600,000 worth of software.
Oh, yeah. That is just, at some point, he should really let that fade back into the past, because each time you say what a great job that you did, and even though it was a total failure, you're bringing that back up and letting everybody look at it again. And by the way, we're talking about it because you said it.
It's the biggest contract failure in the history of Josephine County.
Yeah, right.
Why is
That's,
he bringing this up again? Okay, so
well, because they really didn't do. They really did a good job. It just didn't work out.
if the people would just get on their side and all get behind them and just trust in them and back them up like Larry Ford does and his wife that says we don't have a website, if they just get behind them, even if it's lunatic, why, then things would be so much better. Then they could succeed at anything, or they could look like they're succeeding at everything.
Well, I predict that that we're going to do this contract with EcoNorthwest,
Oh,
and I
absolutely.
predict it's going. I predict it's going to bomb, and nothing's going to come of it, and we will just leave with lighter pockets.
It's the same as happened with So Ready. The same exact thing has happened with So Ready. Okay,
I don't know why they can't
always-
see that coming. I mean, every one of these things they've done in the past ends up with nothing. They even talked about that in the city meeting.
Yeah.
But before they decided to go ahead with this thing.
You must remember that Mark Van Holly went to the city and went to the county and almost walked off with the money. He almost got, and you watched it. This is very rare. You saw the videotape and it's like, Simon's like, well, maybe we should be doing this, and an executive said, yeah, they just went ahead. Yeah, okay. You got a chance to see that for yourself, their vision or their lack of vision. They almost gave him the money.
Mm-hmm.
And he was working multiple places. He would have ended up, if he had gotten them all, $1 million out of this deal, and he didn't get it. And he didn't he was pretty upset that we put this story out there and made that clear to several people. Okay, so listen, don't watch this show. Oh, not you, but I mean, other people don't have to watch this show. But I tell you something about just politics. Every single time that we made a prediction about what was going to happen in the election, every time, 100% of the time, we've been correct. So here I am trying to talk with the county commissioners about the effect that Cheryl Walker's lie had on the city council. Go ahead and play that, Mike, please.
Dale Matthews, Grants Pass. There's misinformation. That's the kind of thing that you'll read in the Courier. And there's disinformation. That's sometimes the kinds of things that come out of this county board. There was a vote recently at the city council meeting where they relied partially upon a piece of information from Aaron Kubik. Aaron Kubik told them that you have already approved the contract with EcoNorthwest. Already approved it? Well, I know that's not true. And the next day, the misinformation that was passed out was by Jim Moore of the Daily Courier, who repeated that. It's false. Now, we know that. We attend meetings, and occasionally Jim Moore will be in the same meetings that I'm in. How could he possibly make this mistake? Partially based, I suppose, on Aaron Kubik's false report to the city councilors. Now, that was a very tight vote. It was actually broken by the mayor. Some of those votes that were so close could have been decided because, well, our partners already said yes. Why wouldn't they say yes under that kind of pressure? So I asked Aaron Kubik and David Reeves in the hallway yesterday, where did you get this false information? From Cheryl Walker. That's what they said. Well, now wait a minute. There's the disinformation part of it, because that's the hand of this Board of County Commissioners, or at least 1 out of 3, reaching out and influencing the vote, the very close vote of the City Council. Now, do you remember when Cheryl Walker also told the Finance Authority, it's the people that are making money available to us from the state for our project out in Exit 61. She told the Infrastructure Finance Authority that, and she said it in the meeting also, it's part of the public record, that the school board was already on board. No, they're not. They are not to this day. So they were surprised when I went to their meeting and I said, well, here's what Cheryl Walker is saying about you, school board. They weren't happy. Well, now that's just completely made up. And that's also involving a lot of money. So why would a county commissioner make that up in order to influence bringing money into the county? And why would a county commissioner tell David Reeves and Aaron Kubik, well, we've already approved that. You know that you haven't. How do you feel about that? I brought that to both commissioners one at a time. How do you feel about that? Well, it was time for the city council, when they heard these things going on, to object. And now you should object and censure Cheryl Walker.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. No, you know what? This is really, it's dirty. It's dirty. And they shouldn't do this. The whole thing should be backed up a little bit, and they should, but I guess, once these things have been voted on, these people aren't going back to this. The pushers of this thing in the board are the strong ones, and the ones that, voted against it, and the abstainer, mainly the abstainer, are the weak link here. And they are why, or at least the abstainer. He's the reason why this thing went through. If he had stuck to his guns and said, "Hey, wait a minute, I don't have enough information," instead of just going, "Well, I don't have enough information, so I'm going to abstain and let you pass this thing."
But this is like Simon Hare watching something happening illegal right in front of him and not saying anything. I've talked to him many times. I said, if you know that's wrong, well, that was wrong, then why didn't you say anything, Simon? Why don't you say something? Well, and in this case, who was it that made the motion? It was Roy Lindsey. Who was it on the panel that picked these guys? Cheryl Walker and Roy Lindsey. And who seconded the motion? It was Cheryl Walker's liaison, not her, Cheryl Walker's liaison to Jim Goodwin. And Jim Goodwin is, you see the pattern here, you guys? And Jim Goodwin was the one who seconded this. And then it just went straight on. Now, wait a minute. You're going to have to be faster than Roy Lindsey. I don't find a problem with that, but apparently these jokers do. You just got to be a little bit smarter and faster than Roy Lindsey. You can't come up to that lower rung of a ladder, really? Just say, hey, I have some questions. I move that we postpone this till I get the answers.
Yeah, and you have to take this job seriously. And apparently, you're perfectly fine with abstaining and letting something like this go through, even though you think that maybe there's some stuff you disagree with. You should have disagreed. You should have said, no, I'm not for that right now. Thank you very much.
Or at the very least, you could say, even while this thing's going on, wait a second. Oh, that's out of order. It's just going to have to be out of order. Okay, Mr. Mayor. I don't think that we're doing this right, Mr. Mayor. I think that we need to pause here for a second, Mr. Mayor. I think that Roy Lindsey made a promise last time that he wouldn't do it, and he's doing it again. And I think that it stinks that the guy that was on the selection committee and this guy that works on the staff with the county are the ones that saying, first and second on this. I have questions. I refuse to allow you to vote on this unless you take into account my questions. Where's your backbone? Oh, that's out of order. Well, it's just going to have to be out of order. Okay.
Yeah.
I did that from the podium. Well, you're going to have to sit down. Oh yeah. Thanks a lot. At least you could question the system. If you're not willing to question the system, stay at home like Lily Morgan. They're not even showing up at these. At least these guys showed up, but then they sit there and they don't do anything. If you think it's wrong, if you think it's right, then go right ahead. But obviously they thought that it was wrong. So say something, anything. I'd like a maple bar with bacon on it. You could speak up anything just to get the process to go right. Okay, so after
you know what? If their sales pick up, I'm going to start coming in there and going, hey, maybe you could throw a couple of free maple bars my way here.
You know who's going to carry this from now on here in Grants Pass? In-N-Out Burger.
They'll have a maple bacon bun on their hamburger. Yeah.
Oh, on their hamburger. I'm glad you made that clear. Yeah, because I was thinking you were talking about women again. Okay, so look. All right, so Cheryl never, she just has to say something. what Keith Heck does, because he can't think of anything to say, he just gets real quiet and just kind of glares at you. And Simon Hare, blah, 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 he says nothing, basically. Cheryl Walker always has to come in and she has to say something. So here I've said, you know, you represented the county government incorrectly. These two guys say that you are the source of this misinformation. We've got this schlub sitting in the back of the room from the Daily Courier who can't seem to understand what the news is and doesn't even do basic journalism, asking for a second source for a story. We do it all the time. There's plenty of stories we haven't done, and Mike knows a couple of them. We can't tell you about them, but we only had one source, and some of these stories were delicious. But we're not going to tell you this. As delicious as a maple bar with bacon on it. They were that we would have loved to tell you this. We had videotape, but we couldn't do it without the second source. If we're going to guess on something, then we'll tell you this is a guess. And we do that occasionally. But there are some things that are so hot topics that we couldn't do it. Like Doug Deakins coming forward and accusing Simon Hare correctly of threatening him, denying, and calling two young girls and basically offering sex. We're not going to run that story unless we've got some confirmation from the guy, right? So, okay, and we reported on what he said, and we reported what the police report said about Simon Hare and drinking. This is a report about the police report. We don't have to find two police reports, you know, I mean, okay, so anyway, so what is Cheryl Walker possibly going to say, and why is this picture up here? Here's Cheryl Walker's response to my questions.
I think it's important for people to understand that when someone is constantly stewing in negativity, as Dale does, he plays this game of gossip in his own mind with the voices of his own head. And Mr. Kubik may have been misinformed. Mr. Kubik did not participate in any of the negotiation, nor did he participate in the interviews for EcoNorthwest, where EcoNorthwest was selected. We interviewed a number of companies. I have never, ever said that this board had approved that contract. We had approved the funding for the contract.
Oh, that's different.
But we had never approved the contract. So that may have been misinformation that was misunderstood by Mr. Kubik.
Disinformation.
Mr. Kubik is not to be faulted, nor is the newspaper for reporting what they were told.
No, let's not fault Jim.
Misinformation occurs. Again, I'd like to restate, this board never had approved the contract. We had approved the funding for the contract, is the statement I had ever made. And then I don't really understand, maybe again it's the voices in his head about the IFA and Exit 61 and the school board. The school board has nothing to do, as far as I know, with Exit 61. But neither have I said that the school district is on board for any funding for the sewer project.
Liar!
I remember talking to various individuals that it was our desire that they would be on board. We were going to move forward. You can talk to Mr. Brandis, who has been in on all these negotiations as well. That is our desire that the school board go forward with this. We think that eventually that they probably will. But no one, including Mr. Brandis, nor I, nor this board, has ever said that the school district is on board with the project, because
we have it on tape, Cheryl.
We know they are not. It is our desire that they do so, and we would like them to do so because we would like to work with them. And but I do know that they have their own issues on their board that they have to work through. They have a policy decision that they have to make, and that's not up to us to enter into nor to make a comment on.
You did make comments.
Is out there, and we have made that clear to IFA. IFA had asked us about that if we thought it was necessary, since the school board was not on participating in the project. That if we thought it was necessary, and we said it is not necessary, we will move forward.
No, you didn't.
The invitation is always open, and the school has always been invited to those discussions, and we still hope that they will. Hope that the school board will. So. I would hope that people would be very discerning in regards to information and go to the source if they have questions as to what is going on with these various projects that we're working on. I think it's a disservice to report something without actually finding out the true facts of it. So
Then there was a long, long, long pause. She thinks it's a disservice to report things incorrectly, Mike.
Yes.
But Jim Moore doesn't bear any responsibility for any of this.
No, they shouldn't be faulted for
We're
it.
the only ones. She did say to the infrastructure, they asked her, not she didn't ask them. They asked, what they said was, okay, we're taking your information, because she said this, and you've seen the tapes. Well, this is going to help sell the project because they're on board. And they said, they're on board? And they didn't say to Cheryl, do you think that's important? No, we don't think it's important. This is the opposite of what she said in the meetings. Just ask yourself, does it make any sense that the Infrastructure Finance Authority would be asking Cheryl Walker if she thinks that the school board needs to be on board? No, it was the other way. She said the school board is on board, and she admitted in a meeting, you've seen the tape, and that's why you should give us the money. Doesn't that make more sense? Just on an objective, you don't know anything about it, never seen the tape, that makes more sense, doesn't it?
Okay.
It's a clumsy lie.
Well, let me ask you something about something she said here. She said that they didn't say they approved the contract. They approved the funding for it. So were you in a meeting where they brought this up and voted on approving the funding for?
Yes, I was. And we mentioned that one night on our show. There have been so many shows. I mentioned that they did say, yes, we're going to approve the funding. But although they set the funding aside to participate in this, they wanted, especially Simon wanted, because it's taking control of economic development out of her hands after 3 years. You know how much he wanted to do that. And it's handing it over to anybody else. And so Simon's going to back this plan because it means it's out of the hands of Cheryl Walker. That's one of the main reasons he's made that abundantly clear over a number of meetings and over at least the last year. And we showed you, like, I don't know, what was it, 12 videos to that effect. And she was, he's trying to take it away from me. We can't give it to somebody on the outside. Oh, really? Well, now she's saying that. So he's going to go with this plan. And even he's now calling it EcoNorthwest. Give me a break, Simon. Come on now. That's not what the Sierra Club calls it, but you can have it any way that you want. You can call it a ham sandwich if you really insist. Look, the thing is, here she is saying that she never said that. Well, that's not what they said. I was very clear with them. Where did you get this information? And it was very clear what Aaron Kubik told the city council. And it was very clear that on a very tight vote like that, this could possibly have had some effect on that. To me, it's very clear they ought to say, you know what? We were given false information by someone who is a staffer saying, don't question staffers. This is something DeYoung ought to say. I changed my mind based on this staffer who said, don't question staffers. Now we know they don't know this. Now we know we cannot unquestionably believe in what staffers are telling us because they didn't vet this either. They're going to take Cheryl Walker's word for things. Do you take Cheryl Walker's word for things? We have pointed out to you. Remember when she said that she had been approached by hundreds of people begging for no voters pamphlet? Do you believe that? Do you remember when she said that she's seen overwhelming support? You heard this from the city councilors last night. Wow, we're getting all kinds of this support for this idea. Really? Overwhelming support? She saw overwhelming support for the junk ordinances. Overwhelming. It was going to pass. Keith went along with it. Even Simon said, you know, I have my doubts about that. And he was the one that first brought it up. So he's not blameless on this. She said, it's going to pass. It's going to pass. Why? There's overwhelming support. We have mathematical proof, 80% to 20, that was full of it. Or that she was. Where's this overwhelming support you told us about? It's a lie. And so it's no coincidence that she says, well, he's hearing voices in his head. Where have you heard this phrase before? We told you about that. We said it. Is she watching our show? Hello, Cheryl. Okay, this is you. And this too. Is she the one that is coming up with these facts about people that are calling her and all these folks wanted her way? Gee, that's pretty coincidental. You know, it just turns out that the votes weren't there. She said that they would be. Mike, you want to wrap this up, bud? That's a good wrap up.
Yes, I can't add anything to that.
Well, she wasn't able to either. That's nice. Thank you very much, Cheryl Walker, for being such a good public servant. Why, you're obviously the voices in your head, Dale Matthews.